I hope you are doing well. I hope you are doing well. This is a scandal, but an unprecedented one, which demonstrates once again that the current Algerian regime, the Tibu regime, has descended into madness. The advanced age of Algerian leaders has always been a hindrance to the country's development. We have always criticized the advanced age and aging of our diligent elites, and we have always criticized the monopoly of the most important positions, the highest levels of government, by very old leaders, who are often sick, irrational, and given their advanced age, sickly, and disconnected from reality. Well, because of their intellectual and physical inability to truly take charge of their duties and live up to the important missions assigned to them in the context of their position, based on their privilege, well, the country is dangerously weak and never manages to develop. A case has just illustrated this bitter truth and, this biological complex. Because Algeria, the problem, the Algerian regime, beyond bad governance, corruption, injustice, and dictatorship, has a biological problem. Its decision-makers are very old, sick, and when you are over 83, when you are over 80, you start to have bouts of delirium. Age, it's scientifically proven, is more worn out, more damaged. The pressure of the job, the pressure of work. When you are over 80, you are not as dynamic, you are not able to provide a quality effort, either intellectually or physically, like someone who is 50 or 45 or even 60 years old. 80 years old and a bit, that's still an old person. The dictatorship of the elderly in Algeria is damaging our country. A case has just illustrated this. The Algerian ambassador to Lebanon, Kamel Bouchama, was officially dismissed and relieved of his duties yesterday, October 1, 2025, following a disastrous controversy. This gentleman, who has been a former minister since the 1980s, is in power, Kamel Bouchama. I met him, he is a writer, an intellectual, an Arabist, an Arabic speaker. I met him in 2018 to 27, but he is old. He is very old. I don't know what got into him at a conference in Lebanon, when he has been ambassador to Lebanon since last February. He has been ambassador since February 2025. Previously, he was a serial ambassador. He had to leave Syria because of the fall of the Bassarad regime in 2024. And well, during a public conference at a cultural event, he gave a speech where he talked nonsense. It's obvious that he's delirious. What do you mean, the onset of Alzheimer's or the onset of old age? He's old age. At a certain point, at a certain age, we lose our irrationality, we start to make delusional remarks, we start to rave. He started calling Donald Trump a cowboy, a mentally ill person. His place is in a psychiatric hospital. She's not there, and how abnormal it is that he finds himself at the head of the world's leading power. Incredible, shocking remarks, when he's an ambassador. Kamel Bouchama, he forgot that he was an ambassador. He started to speak, it seems, his personal opinion. But an ambassador does not have a personal opinion. An ambassador represents the state. A state commits the state's word. His words, his remarks, his positions illustrate an official position of the state. Algeria, which is trying to have good relations with the United States of America, which is trying to bring the United States of America back to its giant, to itself, to its interests so that the Americans do not remain pro-Moroccan in the region forever, its ambassador to Lebanon insults the American president by calling him mentally ill and who should be in a psychiatric hospital. This is extremely serious. And the Moroccan media began to publicize this affair. When the Moroccan media started publicizing it, they said, look what the leaders, because the Moroccan media, the pro-Moroccan government media, pro-Moroccan government, they rubbed their hands together. They jumped at the opportunity to try, of course, to sow discord between Algeria and Washington. What is serious? Kamel Bouchama, what he did was an insult. How come you're an ambassador, you call an American president mentally ill? In reality, who is mentally ill? It's Bama, and who is the real sick person? It's Abid who called him back. Now we have to break the story, okay? Who brought him back because he's his friend? We have to tell the truth. Who is Kamel Bouchama? Young Algerians don't know him. Kamel Bouchama is from Shelchel. He was born in 1943. He's 82 years old. Kamel Bouchama, he was the Minister of Youth and Sports in the 80s. He was the Minister of Youth and Sports between I think 83 and 80. Let me check 83 and 84 if I'm not mistaken. He's an old man. He's an old man. He had already been in power for a very long time. In fact, previous generations remember him. He was then an ambassador. There you have it, he was the Minister of Sports between 84 and 88. 84 and 8. I was born in 84, so I can tell you that he was a minister the day I was born. As you can imagine, I'm over 40 now. He was in power 40 years ago. Then he was appointed, then he disappeared because later on he became Baufa, who quickly sidelined him. He didn't get along at all with Bifaka. BF is a good idea because Kamel Bouama is an intellectual but he's very acerbic. He is insolent. He is very insolent. He quickly turns to insults, quickly turns to defamation, slander. He is not a very elegant intellectual. I did an interview with him. He has interesting ideas when he has all his mental strength. But he really has a bad temper, a very bad temper. So Boutefly sidelined him when he came. Boutefly was ambassador to Syria in 2001. Then, his career was ruined. Baufa practically dismissed him from his position. He retired him. He was removed from the diplomatic apparatus. Abdul Majid TB knows him. Abid has the same character as Boujama and Tebo. It is the same character of populists. They like brawlers, bad characters, they are violent. These are people, that's for the time being. You have seen Tabum, Kamal Boushama, it's like Tabum except Kamal Bouama. He's more educated, he's more intellectual. At least he, Bama, he's written books, he knows history. He's a specialist in the Middle East, Syria, Lebanon. He's written a lot about the descendants of Abd Qadir, about the Algerians who lived in Lebanon and in Syria. But in reality, in terms of their character, they're two characters who are angry, envious and tough. So, Tebboune, he recovered. He rehabilitated Kamel Boushama in March because Kamel Boushama started to speak well of Tebboune, to support him, to support his legitimacy, to praise Tebboune and so on. So, Tebboune returned the favor, he recovered, rehabilitated him, and first appointed him as a member of the Council of the Nation, with the equivalent of the Senate in Algeria, the President of the Republic. He has 1/3, we call it the presidential third. 2/3 are elected and 2/3 are elected. The political party has the power to do so. The last third is the President of the Republic, who has a quota. He is the one who appoints honored individuals to honor them and thank them for their services to the nation. They are appointed Senator Kamel Boushama. I don't know what services he has provided because he is controversial, but apart from the fact that he has written interesting books on certain aspects. But hey, Senator, it doesn't matter. Honestly, I don't find it shocking that he was appointed Senator. So in March 2022, he was appointed Senator. The problem is that he didn't just appoint him as a Senator. He rehabilitated him when he was already over 70 years old. He sent him as ambassador to Syria in July 2023. He managed the situation very badly. Shistilian. He misinformed the Algerian authorities. He acted extremely badly towards the CR in the face of the rebellion movement. He did not anticipate events because he is a very old man. He is a former Bama for him. He thinks like in the 70s, 60s, 80s, the Cold War, conspiracies, imperialism and so on. His mental software is not on the agenda. So he really did not serve the interests of Algeria at all well. When the Syrian opposition took power, he supported Bashar Assad until the last day. He lost power. He continues to support Bashar Assad. He continues to ask the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to continue to support Bashar Assad. Bashar Assad is not going to fall. He misled the Algerian authorities. Was the very bad guide, the very, very bad compass. So he was relieved of his duties and he was appointed to Lebanon in February 2025. And now what's happening? On September 23rd, there was a conference called a cultural event that took place in Beirut. Lebanon and Algeria, a radiant history and a bright present. It's an event that was organized with and in agreement with the Lebanese authorities to celebrate the common heritage, the friendship between the two countries. And he, as Algeria's ambassador to Lebanon, was invited to give a speech, and in his speech, he was catastrophic. He was talking nonsense. He was delirious. He practically had hallucinations. He said that supposedly there was a war of independence, there were 20 million victims, I don't know what. And he started now later in his speech. Really, it's a following an illogical idea, a slanderous idea. Then, he began attacking the American president, calling him an idiot, a madman, a lunatic, a cowboy in the place, who is in a mental asylum, a psychiatric asylum, but who finds himself at the head of the world's leading power. The Lebanese were shocked. Even the Lebanese were in trouble because he spoke in Lebanon. So the Americans could have protested to the Lebanese in the same way a foreign ambassador treats the American ambassador in your country, because a diplomat has prerogatives, he has freedom of maneuver and so on. But in a public conference organized by the Lebanese authorities in collaboration and consultation with the Lebanese government, a foreign diplomat uttered such insults, such defamatory remarks. This is serious. Again, in diplomacy, it is important to know that the ambassador does not have a personal opinion. He is a public figure, an official representative of the state. These public interventions commit the state that he represents. These positions commit the state that he represents. The entire attitude of the ambassador reveals itself and is closely linked to the attitude of the state that he represents. The slippage, bad behavior and excesses of an ambassador directly harm the image of the country that he represents and the interests of the country that he represents. The controversy lasted a week. Lebanon was uncomfortable. The Lebanese press was very uncomfortable. The Moroccan press took advantage of it, they talked about it. Video clips of Kamel Bouama were circulating on social networks. And well, the Algerian authorities, Tebboune had no choice. When we spoke with Tebboune said to dismiss him because Tebboune is doing everything to get Tebbo. He is trying to have good contacts with the Americans. Tebboune is not an anti-American. Tell me the truth, he has many faults, but he doesn't have that fault. He always does everything he can to get closer to the Americans. And recently, the U.S. Embassy in Algeria, Mrs. Elizabeth Oben, she is very friendly with the Algerian leaders. She is regularly welcomed by Abdou Tebboune, by Saha said Chengria, like Tebboune, since 2023. Since the failure of the integration into BRICS, since the end of 2023, there have been enormous efforts on their part to get closer to the United States of America, to launch partnerships, to prevent the Americans from being solely on the side of the Moroccans, to try to seduce them, to convince them to get closer to Algeria and to convince them to take into consideration the benefits of a strategic relationship with Algeria. I would like to remind you during the course last summer, we talked about it. The man, the number 2 of the Algerian army, was invited to the military base in Africa, General Mustafa Ismaili. He was we talked about it in Algeria recently, it was historic. Here, it was on August 21, 2025, an Algerian general, the American ambassador to a U.S. military base. It was August 21st, we talked about it. It happened the 2nd or 3rd days before. It was between August 19th and 18th, during the designation ceremony or handover between the new head of Africa and the former head of Africa. Africa is the command of the American Military Armed Forces for Africa, which is based in Germany, and which the United States of America wants to relocate to an African country, and Algeria, the commanders of Africa, came to Algeria several times. We had good relations with the Algerian army and General Mustafa Ismaili was present. He represented the Algerian army. It's a first. It's a first that an Algerian general on a base, the number 2 of the Algerian army, not a person from the Ministry of National Defense, not a person from the Department of International Relations of the General Staff, but the head of the armed forces. That is to say, he's the one who could potentially succeed the Chief of Staff of the National and Popular Army. Said Shing, Mustafa SM, is the Army Lieutenant General, he was present. There were quite a few project initiatives. The ambassador, the embassy of the United States of America, it is very active in Algeria. It's a lot of cooperation and consultation programs, scholarships. American visas for Algerian leaders are issued with great ease and so on. Relations are cordial, very cordial, and even friendly. There is a desire, especially since Don's resurrection of power on the part of the regime, to gain favor and establish friendship and, very friendly and deep relations with the United States of America, because the Algerian regime is afraid of regional imbalance. It does not want the United States of America to favor Morocco too much, to support Morocco too much, or to support Morocco too much to the detriment of Algeria. And here we have Mr. Kamel Bouchama, 82 years old, from Beirut, who calls Donald Trump mentally ill, crazy and insane, and who should be in a psychiatric Nazi. This is very serious. But what is the root of the problem? It is this appointment of these elderly people. At 80, you are not supposed to be in power, you are supposed to be retired. We have plenty of very talented young diplomats who are under 50 years old who could do the job well and who know Lebanon and the Syrians and who have networks and experience. To entrust an embassy to an elderly person who is delusional, who is sick, who is so old. That is the fault of the system. Tebboune Tibi himself in his interviews, we see the impact of his age. He is delusional, he talks nonsense, he does not understand the figures, he fakes news, incorrect information, badly delivered speeches. So we can't continue like this. The dictatorship of the elderly, at some point, it has to stop. Generational renewal, Algerian designer, is important. In addition to a political and economic problem, we have a biological problem. The advanced age of our leaders, generals at 80 years old, ambassadors at 80 years old, presidents at 80 years old, ministers at 80 years old. 80 years old is not normal. At some point, we are a young country. As I said earlier, 47% of the Algerian population is under 28 years old. And in strategic positions, in important positions, an ambassador to Lebanon or Syria, that is an important position. The Middle East is the most important hotbed of tension in the world. That's it, and with Lebanon, Syria, and the countries of the Middle East, we have important interests. I'm not going to put someone who is 82 years old who is delirious, who can't control himself, who has bouts of hallucination. That, once again, is catastrophic, the maintenance and power of elderly people, with all due respect for our elders, but at some point, we have to return to a minimum of rationality. Older people should be retired. I'm sorry, at some point at a certain age you can no longer work. You can't work as an ambassador, president, minister, chief of staff. These are positions that require physical effort, intellectual effort that requires constant lucidity. 82 years old, 83 years old, what can you do? I don't understand the Algerian religion. At some point they have to accept leaving, disappearing, leaving the table. As long as we don't break this taboo of advanced age and the mental and emotional capacities of Algerian leaders, as long as this taboo is not broken, we will never move towards political, economic or democratic progress in our dear and unfortunate Algeria.